Yeah. Good afternoon, teachers and my dear friends. Myself, Vaishnavi Gupta from MBA first year, Operations and Supply Chain Management. I am going to coordinate today's session on production planning and control. So now I welcome our chief guest professor, Professor Sarang Dani. He is a graduate in BE Mechanical, post-graduation in MBA Operations, and currently pursuing PhD. As well as he is the lead auditor of ISO 9001, ISO 21001, Assistant Professor in Operation and Supply Chain. He is an experienced he is an experienced academician working with SP Mandali's Prin NG Naralkar Institute, Pune. Specifically, supply chain management do industry academic collaboration on a mission of building the nation with management education by building the foundation of youth to this country. This is a great follower of Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem, an active investor and believer of Indian capital market. Professor Sanjay Dani have some hobbies like listening classical music, Marathi music, capital market tracking, reading blogs and constructional articles. So guys, as we all know, operations is a huge concept that cannot be summed up in our general words. So I heartily request our chief guest, Professor Sanjay Dani sir, to share his valuable experience and knowledge regarding operations and supply chain, production planning and control to our students. So I would like to hand over further discussion to Professor Sanjay Dani sir. So please continue.
Thank you, Vaishnavi, for that nice introduction. And thank you, Kajal madam. Thank you, Kirti madam, for giving me this opportunity to share my views on operations and supply chain. So, before we really begin, how many of you are tracking Ola Electric? Sir. I'll be using another device as well. Those who are tracking this Ola Electric, can we have some insights about Ola Electric? Can somebody share what are the recent updates related to Ola Electric? Okay, so there are some ground rules for this discussion. First, I am joining from two devices. The only thing is that there should not be any disturbance. Second thing is that it will be interactive session and you have to participate until and unless there is a participation. We cannot guarantee that there is a learning.
Sure, sir.
So the first question is, sorry. How many of you are tracking Ola Electric? And can we have some updates?
Sarang sir, I think because of the two device, the voice is echoing.
Okay. Yeah, is it clear now?
Yes, it's better now, sir.
Is it clear now?
Yes, it's absolutely clear, sir.
Yeah, is it clear now?
Yes, clear, sir, clear.
Okay. So can we have some discussion about Ola Electric? How many of you are tracking and what are the updates, recent updates related to Ola Electric? Yes. Okay. I'll share. I'll break the ice. They launched the Ola scooter on 15th of August at 2 p.m. Can we have some more discussion now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you say something about it? Okay. How many variants they are coming up with?
Sir, two variant.
Okay.
Variants.
Can you name them?
Sir, S1 and S1 Pro.
Okay. Great. That's the first thing. Second, where is their factory located? At what location? The factory is located. Yes.
Tamil Nadu.
Great. Correct. It's Hosur in Tamil Nadu. The third thing, who is the founder or who is the brain behind Ola Electric? Who
Sir,
is the founder of
Bhavish Agarwal.
Correct. Correct. And what are the prices of these two variants?
S1 around 86 and S1 Pro around.
Okay, correct. So having said that, let me give you some brief about Ola Electric. So 6 months back, they started their establishment of their factory. So factory location is already been covered in your class. Plant location and plant layout. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So plant layout and plant location is already been covered. Let's look at it. Can we just go to second slide? So this is the agenda, like production planning and control. It has divided into different aspects, production planning and production control. And we will see this production planning and control in the context of automotive assembly plant. And then I'll discuss what are other methods of production. So can we go to third slide? Yeah. Open the link which is shared, video case link. Click on that link. It will, no, go to previous slide. Click on that link. Yeah.
Sir,
The
which
upper
link?
one. The upper one. Yeah.
Sir, is visible?
No.
No.
Actually, the slide has been changed. ऐसे नहीं करना है, पीछे जाओ थर्ड स्लाइड पे और ऊपर का जो है click on that link. If it is not clicking, just copy it and paste it in a browser.
Sir, is in.
And you have to share the volume of your device so that everyone can enjoy the audio and video of that particular link.
Yes, sir. Sir, is visible?
Not
This
actually.
one?
Yeah, you have to copy that link and paste it in a browser.
Sir, browser पे किया है.
Gaurav, I think you have shared only PowerPoint presentation, not all the screen.
Okay. It's visible now?
Yeah. Correct. So click on that. Share the volume as well.
Yes, sir.
Gaurav, your volume is not audible, dear.
Yes, ma'am.
Volume is not audible.
Ma'am, volume तो on है.
While sharing, you have to click. Gaurav,
Yes, sir.
while sharing, you have to click on audio is on.
Yes, sir. Audio on है था मेरा.
नहीं सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है.
Okay. Now, sir. Sir, अभी आ रहा था आवाज?
Still not
नहीं,
audible.
आवाज नहीं आ रहा.
Gaurav,
Yes, ma'am.
when you are sharing, okay, go back. Okay, go back. No, go back.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, yes. Now, when you are sharing, when you will be clicking on this arrow, okay, the upside arrow, when you will be clicking the screen, at that time you get a you can get a box wherein it is written audio on. So you have to tick there.
Yes, ma'am. No.
Okay, so once you tick, then only the audio will like we could hear the audio.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now while you were sharing this, did you got any dialog box saying that the audio was on?
Ma'am, now audible?
No, beta. Yes, now
Yeah,
it's audible.
yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Thank you, Gaurav. So let's go to presentation now.
Yes,
I
sir.
just thought of it is needed only with the intention that most of you must have not seen how exactly the factory works or how the assembly line is all about. That's the first thing. Second thing is virtual tour of Ola Electric is going to be a future. So just thought of let's share it so that most of you, those who don't have any background or must have not seen the assembly line, will understand how this is operating. So now, having said that, just few facts, just to quote few facts from that video. It will create 10,000 jobs, 10,000 job मिलेंगे, and the investment in that plant was almost 2,400 crore. Now the next thing which is vital is they'll be producing 1 crore scooters, per year. एक साल में 1 crore scooters वो बनाएंगे, and it will be a export oriented unit, so they'll be supplying these scooters to Europe, Asia and Latin America. Now when it comes to production, these are few vital aspects which needs to be considered. Now the last line is very vital. Global electric vehicle industry will be reaching to $803 billion by 2027. Okay, so having said that, the first thing of our discussion is production planning. So you have to plan how many vehicles you are planning to manufacture in a given span. Now here the span is 1 year, 1 crore vehicles. Now whether there is a demand for those vehicles is there or not is next question which we will be looking after while discussing it. Yeah, Gaurav.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just thought let's take the feedback. So how many of you understood production planning of Ola Electric? I'll just summarize it once again. 1 year, 1 crore vehicles. एक साल में 1 crore vehicles. और that comes out to be 2 सेकेंड में एक स्कूटर बनेगी. 2 सेकेंड में एक स्कूटर बनेगी. That's the first thing. Second thing is they'll be creating 10,000 jobs, and all these 10,000 jobs will be expert jobs because they'll have to work with robots. So production planning now does not look after only man or men as a aspect, but they have to deal with machines, robots, and it's a fully automated factory. So at the end of the session, we'll once again discuss some of the aspects of it. I'll just put some perspective how to get a demand. Whether the screen is visible? Yes, whiteboard is visible.
Not
No,
yet.
sir.
Not at all.
Now is it visible?
No, sir.
No, sir, not yet.
No, sir.
Technology is a Gaurav.
Yes, sir.
Can you just show me, I mean, how to navigate to whiteboard? Somehow it is not coming. Anyways, that's okay. I mean, we don't need it for the time being. What we're gonna see is let's look at the presentation now. So just stop sharing this. Gaurav, go ahead with the presentation now. Okay, and Gaurav, I'm requesting control to next device. So just give me the control on the next device,
Yes, sir.
the other device.
Given, sir.
So planning and then control when something is not really going in a way, the way in which you want. You have to have a backup plan. Yeah. So considering this, Ola Electric, what is very vital to understand here is production planning and production control are two different terminologies, where your plan is not really working as per your schedule, when the things are not really working. Yeah. So production planning and production control are two different facets which are to be looked after by operations manager. Production planning deals with planning for your resources, planning for your inputs, 5 M's of inputs: man, machine, method, material, and money. And production control is when something is not really going as per the plan. So you need to put some control on the aspect wherein you have to understand that it is not really affecting whatever is being promised to you. Now, in case of Ola Electric, what they have done is they have pre-booked 1 lakh scooters at the nominal price of rupees 499. So 499 multiplied by 1 lakh is what they have raised before launching. Now, from the marketing aspect, it is one of the important aspect that you get the customer. You have a demand for your product. Now, from operation aspect, it is vital to know एक साल में 1 करोड़ गाड़ियाँ बनाएंगे हम. एक साल में 1 करोड़ गाड़ियाँ बनाएंगे, तो एक महीने में कितने बननी चाहिए? Can somebody give me the rough cut answer? Yes, students. एक साल में 1 करोड़ गाड़ियाँ बनाएंगे, तो एक महीने का कितना होगा? Put it in a chat box or what is this dialog box? Gaurav, am I audible?
97,000.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 97,000 per month. So they have already pre-booked 1 lakh vehicles. तो एक महीने में उनका delivery start होगा. And just to your knowledge, they'll be starting the delivery of the vehicles. 6 महीने पहले प्लान स्टार्ट किया, जो आपने देखा कि starting from the scratch, and within 6 months the factory, the biggest factory of electric vehicles is really starting to deliver the vehicles in less than 8 months time. Now, having said that, let's go to the second slide. Next slide. Gaurav, go to next slide. Yeah. So if you really look at this particular plant as a Ola Electric's plant, let's look at the animation first. Just click, Gaurav. There is some animation. Let's check whether that animation is working or not. Click. Click. No, go back. Just go back. So there is something called as logistics, which is very vital when you are doing your production planning and production control. When the raw material is brought inside the factory, it's called as inbound logistics. Within the factory, now in case of a Ola Electric, the factory is spread across 500 acres. 500 एकरामध्ये the entire plant is located, and at a time, parallel 10 different operational lines. I mean, at a time, 10 production line will create 10 vehicles. So 10 गाड़ियाँ निकलेंगी 20 सेकंड में. Can we just do the calculation? 1 लाख रुपए की गाड़ी है और 2 सेकंड में एक गाड़ी निकल रही है, तो 1 मिनट में कितनी गाड़ियां निकलेंगी एंड उसका प्राइसिंग. No need to use the calculators. Just simple calculation.
30 vehicles and 30 lakh.
Vehicles.
And rupees कितना होगा? Gaurav, screen is not visible. Yeah. So I'll just tell you, to make a scooter in the factory, they'll be needing some raw material. And what is the raw material needed for the scooter? Let's say you'll be needing tires. How many tires do you need for a scooter?
2.
2 tires. Stepney is not really needed. In some of the old scooters, there's a back. I mean, there's a stepney at the back. So probably this is not needed. Then how many electric batteries do you need?
1.
Somebody who is following Ola Electric will give me the answer. 1 is correct answer. 1 is for S1, and for S1 Pro, how many batteries are needed?
Sir, 2.
No. Are you? I mean, if you're following that news, then only you can answer that. There is a provision for how many batteries?
There are 3 batteries in the S1
Correct.
Pro.
That's correct. So great. So there are provision for 3 batteries, and you'll be needing some supplier, because being an assembler, Ola cannot really produce vehicle tires. Vehicle tires बनाने के लिए हमारे पास बहुत सारे other companies है. Can you name few of the tire companies?
Apollo.
MRF, Fiat, Apollo.
Apollo.
Okay. And if I just complex it, some non-listed tire companies. Non-listed मतलब जिसका listing नहीं हुआ है BSE NSE पे. Can you name them? नहीं. So Bridgestone is one of them. Then Firestone is another. So these are the companies, and those who are from marketing can understand why these names talks about Firestone or a Bridgestone or something like that. So it is a curious case study. Those who are interested can surely explore this. Now what happens? Ola Electric, they'll be focusing on creating 2 vehicles per 2 seconds per vehicle, and they are not good in manufacturing the tires, not good in assembling the tires, so they'll be needing some support from their suppliers. So suppliers will be there, will be supplying this raw material to them. So when the material is brought inside the factory, it is called as inbound logistics. Within the factory, there are departments wherein you'll have to move the material across your assembly line in order to ensure that the material is properly assembled by the robot. So it is called as in-house logistics, which is typically within the factory movement is called as in-house logistics. And for that, whatever you need is called as material handling systems. So here you can see a forklift, which will help to transfer the raw material from storage to the assembly line. And then there is something called as outbound logistics. When the scooters are ready, scooters are sent via the system called as outbound logistics. Now my next question is, by doing the advance booking, Ola understood that per month they can manufacture, or they can assemble around 96-97,000 vehicles. एक सब महीने में पूरी असेंबली लाइन अगर प्रॉपरली काम करती है तो हम 96,000 व्हीकल्स बनाएंगे. 96-97,000. तो उन्होंने 1 महीने का प्री बुकिंग कर लिया, वो तो डिमांड आपके सामने है. नाउ कैन यू टेल मी 1 साल में अगर उनको 1 करोड़ व्हीकल्स बनाने हैं, so what will be the demand? They are predicting that 1 करोड़ vehicles उनको लगेंगे, but can you tell me month wise what will be the demand? Can you predict the demand? Put Y if you can predict the demand, put N if you cannot predict the demand. Are you putting in the chat box or not? Yes. Hello. Am I audible? I'm asking, can you
Yes, sir,
predict?
audible.
Yeah. Can you predict the demand? 1 साल में 1 करोड़ व्हीकल बेचने का उनका टारगेट है, उनका प्लान है, बट कितने डिमांड आएंगे, कितने लोग बुक करेंगे? Can you predict that?
No, sir.
Only one is saying no. So can I assume others are saying yes?
No, sir.
You
No,
cannot
sir.
predict the demand. Why can't you predict the demand? ओला इलेक्ट्रिक तो अच्छी गाड़ी है और अच्छे सस्ते दाम पे मिलने वाली है. फ्यूचर इज इलेक्ट्रिक, तो क्यों नहीं प्रेडिक्ट कर सकते हम? What is the reason? Why can't you predict the demand? Yes.
Dynamics.
Sorry, Naneshwar, you are saying something, but I'm not able to hear you.
Sir, market is the dynamic, so that's why.
Very nice. Market is dynamic. So who will be the competitors of Ola? Or who are
Sir,
the existing competitors and will be the next competitors?
Sir, Ather Energy, Hero.
Okay. Anybody else?
Simple energy.
Okay, good, great.
Sir,
So
Okinawa.
we cannot really predict the demand. और क्या चाहिए हमें? अगर हम प्रेडिक्ट कर सकते थे डिमांड, इतना डिमांड है और इतना ही अपने को सप्लाई करना है, तो एक्स्ट्रा का इन्वेंट्री नहीं रखना पड़ता था, एक्स्ट्रा का मैन पावर प्लानिंग करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, बट ऐसा होता नहीं है. सो इट इज़ ऑलवेज डायनामिक nature of the demand. There is a change in the customers' preferences, customer choices. There could be competitors who are coming up with some other sources of attracting more customers. Then some of the unhappy customers will share the wrong feedback, and word of mouth is still a great mode of communication. Now, having said that, we cannot predict the demand, and hence go to the next slide. Okay, so the title for the slide was physical flow of the product, and whatever the physical flow of the product, actually the material is moving from the suppliers, coming to the factory, getting assembled, and let's say consider the example of Ola Electrics. 1500 odd components are needed to assemble a single unit of scooter. When it comes to more complex operations, let's say take the example of Tata Motors. So if they want to make one car, there will be around 5 lakh components which are supplied by more than 1,000 suppliers. So it becomes very difficult to plan your production. And why that is becoming more difficult? Because you don't, on the one side, you don't have control over the demand. Demand is always not predictive. You cannot really predict the demand. You can generalize, you can reach up to some extent, but you cannot say अगले महीने में इतना ही ऑर्डर्स आएगा या इतने ही लोग बुकिंग करेंगे. likewise. Now, having said that, let's go to the next slide. Now, there is something called as Herbie story, and you will be needing it. And why do you need it is very vital. Is really a story to listen to. Now, can you tell me what is this? What are you seeing? Yes, Shashank, Dhaneshwar, Gaurav, can you share something?
It is Coke.
Okay, correct. So it is a bottleneck. That is why it is shown as bottle. I mean, the neck of the bottle. And there is always a problem when you are not really able in position to identify what is the bottleneck. So, Gaurav, can you read what is the first line? A troop of boy.
Yes, sir. A troop of boy scout had to reach a camp ground before sunset.
Right. So the story goes like this: a troop of boy scouts. They wanted to reach to a camp before the sunset. So the target was fixed before the sunset, and let's say sunset will happen at 6:30 p.m. Now, uh, what is the next story that is happening? One guy is saying, "Can we reach before the sunset? I am afraid of darkness." So there is a constraint. There is a problem of not reaching to the destination on time. Now there is this one guy who is very much healthy guy, and he's saying, "See, it is only 4 p.m. We have plenty of time." Now, just imagine, uh, within 2.5 hours, they're supposed to reach to the destination. Now, the same thing applies to manufacturing. Within 2 seconds, you have to ensure that the scooter is really getting passed through. मतलब एक स्कूटर आपकी 2 सेकंड में बननी चाहिए. Now, when it comes to Ola Electric, the throughput time is 2 seconds. 2 सेकंड में एक स्कूटर बननी चाहिए. But when it comes to conventional manufacturer, let's say Tata Motors, it is like 70 seconds में एक कार बननी चाहिए और एक कार बनाते भी है. Now, how that is possible, will be going through that in a shorter while. Now, if you look at the central guy who is saying that it is only 4 p.m. and we will have plenty of time to reach to the destination. Now, exactly what happens when you see something like this, then the problem arises. Why? Because the guy's name is Herbie, and this is the classical story of theories of constraint, uh, the book written by Eliyahu Goldratt. Now he becomes a bottleneck because he is the fat guy or the healthy guy in that group. Second, he is not looking at the time because he says there's a plenty of time to reach to the destination. It doesn't happen. 2 सेकंड में कार बनानी है, 2 सेकंड में स्कूटर बनानी है. You cannot say कि आज थोड़ा सा 1-2-5 मिनट ज़्यादा हुआ तो क्या होता है, बिकॉज वो प्लानिंग गड़बड़ हो गया तो आपको कंट्रोल करना पड़ता है. सो प्लानिंग एंड कंट्रोल विल लुक आफ्टर दैट. सो जस्ट गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. Just change the slide. So what happens in the manufacturing context? So we have seen 5 frames there. We are seeing 7-step process of manufacturing here. Now what happens? Because that Herbie was carrying the extra luggage. Go back to the earlier slide. Now here, just check the third process is the bottleneck. Now can you see the guy is healthy, but he is carrying some extra luggage. Can you see extra luggage is there, others are not really carrying extra luggage, and because these two guys can move fast, can move forward very at rapid pace, but because he's carrying the extra luggage, so at the beginning all of them will have same energy, but as the day pass through, मतलब सुबह 10 बजे स्टार्ट किया होगा और लेट्स से 4 बज गए, और एनर्जी जो होगा वो, because it's the human being who is working with the robots don't have any constraint. As long as it is maintained properly, robots will not have any constraint, but when it comes to a person, there could be some constraint. And uh, can you see the extra luggage this guy is carrying, so which is making him slow, and that becomes the bottleneck of entire system. Now why bottleneck is the word used? uh, so the failure will happen at the bottleneck only. So failure means all of them should reach on time, and it is not like these two guys will reach first and 4 are not reaching there. So this same thing happens when in the context of manufacturing there are 6 suppliers, and because one supplier is not really supplying on time or making a delay of 3 seconds, 3 सेकेंड का डिले हो गया, एक गाड़ी और आधी गाड़ी, 1.5 गाड़ी का नुकसान, और 1.5 गाड़ी का नुकसान मतलब लेट अस पुट इट इन द सेलिंग प्राइस कॉन्टेक्स्ट, 1 लाख एक गाड़ी और आधी का 0.5, आधी गाड़ी वैसे भी कोई काम की नहीं होगी, तो 1.5 लाख का नुकसान हो गया अगर सप्लायर 3 सेकंड का लेट करता है तो. And then there are some terminology which is being used, which I'll use it in the later part of the discussion. Now as a team, when they are assembling a scooter, all 5 of them, all 6 of them should reach in order to make a single unit of scooter or final output. Now because this guy is carrying extra luggage, so it becomes he becomes slow, and because he is not really moving fast, so others are feeling anxiety, others are feeling depressed, others are feeling nervous कि अगर ये मूव नहीं करेगा तो हम सब में साथ में कैसे जाएंगे, और एज ए टीम वो अगर काम कर रहे हैं तो उनको पहुंचना पड़ेगा टाइम पे. और ऐसे ही होता है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, विच इज शोन इन द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. कैन यू जस्ट अगला स्लाइड. ना यहाँ पे ध्यान देना, यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, एक गाड़ी बनानी है और ये हमारा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है, और गाड़ी बनाने के लिए हमारे पास सप्लायर्स है. अभी ओला के केस में अगर हम लेंगे कि ओला के लेट्स से सप्लायर्स है, सप्लायर्स है, वो रॉ मटेरियल देने वाले हैं और असेंबल होने वाला है यहाँ पे. बट अभी अगर 100 में से एक भी सप्लायर ने सप्लाई नहीं किया, अज्यूमिंग कि वो बैटरी का सप्लायर है, और वो बैटरी का सप्लायर है लेट्स से सिंपल एग्जांपल, बैटरी सप्लायर इज लोकेटेड इन उत्तराखंड. अब वो उत्तराखंड से लेके आपको जाना है तमिलनाडु, और वो 3 सेकंड से लेट हो गया, मतलब वो नहीं दे पाया टाइम पे, तो क्या होगा, इट बिकम्स अ बॉटलनेक, और जब तक बैटरी नहीं लगती है तब तक वो कार आप एक्सेस नहीं कर पाओगे. सो दिस बिकम्स prominent for the suppliers. Now assume these 7 are machines. अब ये 7 machines है, and if I just can draw something. Gaurav, can you write down something on this slide?
Yes, sir.
So let's say supply these 7 are the machines. Okay, do one thing Gaurav. चलो ठीक है, अभी विदाउट राइटिंग ही करते हैं. लेट्स गो बैक, पहले वाली स्लाइड दिखा देना. ठीक है. So now let's take the simple discussion over here. This guy is walking, the first guy is walking at 10 kilometers per hour. This guy is walking at, let's say, 8 kilometers per hour. This guy is walking at 4 kilometers per hour. This guy can walk at 10 kilometers per hour. This guy can walk at 8 kilometers per hour. And this guy can walk at 6 kilometers per hour. And the distance remaining is 4.5 kilometers. So can you, do you think they'll reach on time? The slowest guy walks at 4 kilometers per hour. Yes or no? Put it in the chat box. I think the chat is not really working. Okay, I'll repeat it once again. So let's make it interactive because this is not really happening. So distance remaining is 4.5 kilometers with the current space. This is walking at 10. This is walking at 8. This is walking at, this person is walking at 4. Now this is walking at 4. This is 6, 8 and 10. So do you think as a troop can they reach to the destination?
Sir, some of them are reached to the destination who has the speed of the 10 km per hour.
Okay, so first two will reach, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But what is the success? All 6 of them should reach.
No, sir.
No, sir.
5 kilometers is remaining. No is the correct answer because this guy is the slowest one who is walking at 4 kilometers per hour, and hence the entire system will work at the lowest pace, that is 4 kilometers per hour. Now similarly, go to the next slide. So entire system will work based on the rate of which at which this bottleneck is operating. So let us say this is operating at 7. I mean 1 घंटे में 60 components निकलते हैं इसके 50 है, इसके 60 है, इसके 50 है, इसके 20 है, इसके 30 है और इसके 50 है. So what is the final outcome which is expected? Yes. I'll repeat it. Number of products that can be produced on this particular system: 60, 50, 70, 40, 20, 60 and 80. Yes. What will be the outcome?
The lowest one.
Correct. So the slowest is the bottleneck, and your supply chain or the link will be as strong as your weakest link. अब ये 20 से काम कर रहा है, ये भले ही 40 से काम कर रहा है और ये 80 से काम कर रहा है, कोई यूज नहीं है. You have to design everything considering this as your bottleneck. This as your bottleneck. So your system will produce only what your bottleneck can produce at best possible keys. Now, having said that, let's go to next slide. Now, bottleneck in terms of inventory, if you do not have material at assembly line, I mean, you're assembling your scooter and let's say there is no material available, so there will be a problem, and hence we need to keep the inventory as a buffer. We have to keep the inventory as a buffer. Now, how much inventory is to be kept, or what should be that proportion? is typically dependent on your inventory policy. Ideal case scenario, your work in progress inventory should be 0, and hence these two terminologies, just in time and lean manufacturing, are typically being used in the context of automobile industry and when it comes to a connected flow lines. तो अगर आपको पता है कि आपका मटेरियल टाइम पे नहीं आया तो आपका मशीन रुकने वाला है, तो आप क्या करोगे? थोड़ा सा इन्वेंट्री रखोगे, और वो इन्वेंट्री कितना होना चाहिए ये आपका इन्वेंट्री पॉलिसी डिफाइन करेगा. So when it comes to green inventory, so that you have ample amount of material available in stores. अभी असेंबली लाइन के बाहर आपका एक स्टोर्स भी होगा, वहाँ से आपको लाइन पे कंपोनेंट्स दिए जाएंगे. सो दिस टिपिकली टर्मिनोलॉजी इज कॉल्ड एज लाइन फीडिंग. सो आपका जब तक ग्रीन जोन में है तो आपको टेंशन नहीं लेना है, भले ही सप्लायर अपना 3 सेकेंड लेट आता है या कुछ भी होता है, आपने स्टोर करके रखा है. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू येलो जोन, then it becomes a crucial aspect. So when it is in yellow zone, you have to ensure that a supplier who is located at some remote location is now in position to supply it before it reaches to the red zone. मतलब ये ग्रीन जोन मतलब आपके पास 100 कंपोनेंट्स है, और ये येलो जोन लेट अस से इट इज एट 50 और रेड जोन है 25 पे, ये लेवल्स है. So it is like a signal which is being used in the context of production planning. Now as long as you have a material in green zone, जब तक वो 50 तक नहीं आता है, 50 से लेके 100 के बीच में है, तब तक वो ग्रीन जोन में है और आपका असेंबली लाइन रुकने वाला नहीं है. जब वो येलो जोन में आ गया 50 से लेके 25 के बीच में, तो आपको कितने सेकंड्स या कितने मिनट का आपको सपोर्ट मिलेगा? 25 की अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं तो 2 सेकंड में एक कार निकलती है, तो अगले 24 सेकंड्स का आपका कवरेज है यहाँ पे, और नहीं होगा तो वो रेड जोन में गया तो आप पैनिक हो जाओगे. एंड व्हाई यू बिकम द पैनिक इज बिकॉज देयर इज अ प्रेशर of time and there is a race against the time. Within 2 seconds you have to ensure that your scooter is ready to move out. Now let's go to the next slide. Now having said that, we cannot really predict the demand, and predict the demand is typically called as the technique is called as demand forecasting. Now we have already seen demand is not really in your hand. कौन कब क्या डिमांड करेगा, कौन सा कस्टमर क्या चाहिए. सो इफ somebody is saying कि S1 Pro में मुझे पिंक कलर चाहिए, एक और कहेगा कि S1 में मुझे रेड चाहिए, एक कहेगा कि ओला इलेक्ट्रिक S में मुझे ब्लैक चाहिए. तो क्या डिमांड आने वाला है, यू कैन नॉट रियली प्रेडिक्ट इट. सो forecasting is not really everyone's job. आपको उसमें एक्सपर्ट होना पड़ेगा, तब जाके आपका फोरकास्ट मैच करेगा. और फोरकास्ट अगर आपका मैच हो गया है, आपने फोरकास्ट किया है कि अगले महीने मेरे को बस 1 लाख गाड़ियों का ही बुकिंग आएगा, या आप बोलोगे कि 70,000 गाड़ियों का ही बुकिंग आएगा, तो आपको क्या चाहिए? 70,000 ही गाड़ियाँ बनाओ, एक भी एक्स्ट्रा का मत बनाओ, एक भी ज़्यादा मत बनाओ, और आपका इन्वेंट्री भी कम हो जाएगा, आपका प्रोडक्शन प्लान भी प्रॉपर चलेगा. बट ऐसा होता नहीं है, और आपको आगे वाली भी डिमांड प्रेडिक्ट करनी होती है. इसीलिए आई थिंक सम वॉलंटियर शुड रीड इट. ओबेद, कैन यू रीड द फर्स्ट कोट? और गौरव, कैन यू रीड द फर्स्ट कोट?
Yes, sir. I think there is a world market for maybe 5 computers.
And who is saying this?
Thomas Watson.
Thomas Watson, this gentleman was a chairman of IBM in 1943. Now IBM, you must be aware what is IBM, and IBM is the pioneers in computers. Now what was his prediction about computers? Way back in 1943, he was saying, I think there is a market for only 5 computers. मतलब Thomas Watson साहब, who is the chairman of IBM way back in 1943, was saying there is a demand for only 5 computers and that will be located in 5 continents. Now just imagine, ये साहब गलत हो सकते हैं तो हम और आप क्या है? और ये साहब ने क्या कहा था? बस 5 कंप्यूटर्स लगेंगे पूरे वर्ल्ड में. और अभी क्या हो रहा है? करंट सिचुएशन, एक घर में 5 कंप्यूटर्स है. So your micro processor oriented smartphones are nothing but a computers. Your laptops, your desktops, your tablets, are all of them can be considered as a form of computer or a computer itself. So just imagine a founder of chairman of IBM, Thomas Watson, can go wrong. So can we predict the demand? The answer is no. And that is the sad truth. Now, having said that, let's look at the next definition, which is related to forecasting. Whether forecasting is the only job where you can be wrong 99.9% time and still you will get a paycheck, you'll get paid for it. Now just imagine weather forecasting in the context of India. There is the department called as IMD who is giving the forecasting. आज 18 तारीख है, 17 तारीख से पुणे में धुआंधार बारिश होने वाली है, ऐसा उनका प्रेडिक्शन है. यू गो एंड चेक एनी न्यूज़पेपर, व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? अच्छी खासी धूप खुली हुई है और बारिश का कोई भी नामो निशान नहीं है. सो यू कैनॉट प्रेडिक्ट एंड यू कैनॉट रियली प्रेडिक्ट द फ्यूचर, एंड हेंस few HR guys are now saying you cannot predict it, so create it. Now, having said that, why it is very important in forecasting, in manufacturing to use the forecasting is highlighted in the next slide. So the next slide is forecasting. Now, in case of a Ola Electric, they have to do the forecasting for long-term horizon. Now, what was the long-term horizon? In the slide 1 itself, we have seen the electric vehicle market will reach around $830 billion by 2027. So 5 to 10 years लिखा है. In Ola Electric case, they have predicted अगले 7 साल में लोग बस Ola rather electric vehicle prefer करेंगे. और उसमें से भी हमारा क्वालिटी अच्छा रखा, 3 बैटरीज दी, 18 मिनट में आपकी गाड़ी चार्ज हो रही है 50%, और 50% चार्ज पे आप 70-80 किलोमीटर आराम से जा रहे हो. So that is what is called as long-term forecasting. So the time horizon is long-term. The medium-term forecasting is typically 1 to 3 years. Now, in case of a Ola Electric, they must have signed some supplier contract. और जैसे लेट्स से एक्साइड बैटरीज है, जो बैटरीज प्रोवाइड करने वाले हैं, उनके साथ कुछ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होगा. अगले 3 साल के लिए इस रेट पे हमें बैटरी देनी है. अगर आपने रेट बढ़ाया तो हमें गाड़ियों का भी रेट बढ़ाना पड़ेगा, जो कि हमारे हाथ में नहीं है. सो यू हैव टू फोरकास्ट, कि प्रिडिक्शन करना है आपको कि कितने कस्टमर्स आपको गाड़ियाँ बुक करेंगे. अभी के करंट सिचुएशन में उन्होंने डिमांड तो स्टेबल कर दिया है बाय टेकिंग द एडवांस बुकिंग. और एडवांस बुकिंग कितने लोगों का किया? 1 लाख लोगों ने एक दिन में 499 रुपये दे के अपनी गाड़ी बुक कर ली. तो इसका बेनिफिट क्या हुआ उनको? दे नाउ नो 1 लाख लोगों को हमने ऑलरेडी कमिटमेंट दिया है कि 1 महीने में आपको गाड़ी मिलेगा. और वो कमिटमेंट किस लेवल का है? उन्होंने कहा है कि आपका जो गाड़ी है, they'll be delivering the same vehicle in 1 month's time. और 1 month's टाइम क्योंकि हमने अभी कैलकुलेशन किया था 1 साल में 1 करोड़ गाड़ियाँ बनानी है, तो ऑफ कोर्स 1 महीने में 1 लाख गाड़ियाँ बना सकते हो, वो पॉसिबल है उनके लिए। और इसीलिए 15 अगस्त को उन्होंने अनाउंस किया कि वी आर लॉन्चिंग नाउ ओला, और 10 सितंबर को आपका डिलीवरी भी चालू हो जाएगा गाड़ियों का। And short-term forecasting is you are typically forecasting by considering a month or a week or a day is the short-term forecasting. Short-term forecasting, the classical example could be electricity problem. तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का अगर प्रॉब्लम होने वाला है, वो सैटरडे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं होता है तो हमें आज ही प्लान करना पड़ेगा, या थर्सडे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं होता है तो आज ही हमें प्लान करना पड़ेगा। So forecasting time horizons are typically used to forecast the upcoming demand, which is not really predictable. Still, you try to make it predictable because there are components of forecasting. One is a seasonal, one is a cyclical, one is a trend, and the fourth component is you cannot really predict it. So that is unpredictable component of forecasting. So components of forecasting can be discussed at length in other session. So let's go to the next slide. So we have seen this. Why do we forecast? Because हमने अभी देखा था we cannot really predict the future. So we have to forecast, और हमें सोचना है कि ऐसा फ्यूचर हो सकता है। अभी हमने ऑलरेडी हमें पता चला है कि इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल फ्यूचर होने वाला है, और कोई अभी बोलता है कि मैं पेट्रोल में कार लेके आऊँगा या पेट्रोल पे चलने वाली स्कूटर लेके आऊँगा, तो चांसेस ऑफ दैट पर्सन और दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन गेटिंग फेल्ड विल बी वेरी हाई एज कम्पेयर टू ओला इलेक्ट्रिक। भले ही 1 साल में 1 करोड़ गाड़ियाँ ना भी बेचनी पड़े, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट एटलीस्ट यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन फ्यूचर. So you are trying to predict the future. You try to assume that future will be like this, and based on that, you are trying to predict the same. Now, why do we forecast? It is a dynamic and complex environment. 1.5 years back, we cannot really in position to predict what will be the future of masks, sanitizers. 1 साल में पूरा चेंज हो गया पूरा सिनारियो, कंसिडरिंग 1 दिन में 1 मास्क लगता है। ऐसे भारत की जनसंख्या है 130 करोड़, ऊपर है थोड़ा बट 130 करोड़, तो 1 दिन का 130 करोड़ मास्क मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 365, इतना मास्क लगेगा, और मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 10 रुपीज़ अगर हमने मास्क का कॉस्ट पकड़ा तो 1 दिन का बिजनेस इतना है। कैन यू नो प्रेडिक्ट? तो इसलिए डिमांड शॉर्टेज हो जाता है, एंड देन देयर वाज स्कार्सिटी ऑफ मास्क। देन शॉर्ट टर्म फ्लक्चुएशन इन प्रोडक्ट का डिमांड चेंज होता है। पहले N95 मास्क लेते हैं आप, फिर बोलते हैं कि नहीं आपको 2 लेयर मास्क चाहिए, फिर बोलते हैं नहीं 3 लेयर मास्क चाहिए, एंड देन कॉटन मास्क एंड क्लॉथ मास्क एंड लाइकवाइज। We have to do the rationalized manpower decision making. कितने कस्टमर्स हमें 10,000 लोगों को ओला इलेक्ट्रिक जॉब देने वाला है, तो 10,000 के 10,000 आज ही ज्वाइन करेंगे क्या? नहीं, दे विल बी ज्वाइनिंग इन द फेजेस। जब वो पहला फेज चालू होगा फिर दूसरा चालू होगा, लाइकवाइज दे विल बी यूजिंग देयर मैन पावर प्लानिंग फॉर दैट. Then you have to predict the forecast, you have to predict the future by using the tool called as forecasting. 1 year back, petrol was at let's say 75 rupees per liter, and now it is at 100 rupees per liter. So you cannot really say anything about it because there is a global environment which is affecting it. So you cannot really have any control on that, and hence we need to do the forecast. Next slide. Now, how can you forecast? आपको डेटा कहाँ से मिलेगा फोरकास्ट के लिए? So there is something called as Salesforce estimates. आपका sales team में काम करते हैं, आपके sales person होंगे, आपका your entire sales manager, sales team, those who are actually moving in the field, they are reaching out to the customers and retailers, and they are understanding what is the future, what customer want is what is you supposed to produce. जो कस्टमर डिमांड कर रहा है वही सप्लाई करना चाहिए, अदरवाइज क्या होगा, देयर इज अ नो डिमांड एंड यू आर क्रिएटिंग समथिंग which is not needed. The classical example is Nokia. Customers are demanding smartphones. They are manufacturing bar phones. Now they are out of business. Point of sales data, you must have seen everywhere now. There is this barcode scanning and QR code scanning is widely used. If you happen to visit to any malls, they capture your data, and then based on that, they capture ki Mr. X has purchased, let's say, 5 kg of Surf Excel. So the data is captured, and online processing of the data happens through OLAP, and वो कस्टमर ने क्या बुक किया वो वहाँ पे मैच किया जाता है. So point of sales data, your supply chain partners are helping you to forecast. Your supply chain partners, for example, the Bridgestone or JK Tires, it's supplying to Bajaj Electric. They are supplying to TVS Electric. So they are saying इसका आगे जाके requirement नहीं आने वाला, ये इसका requirement है. So supply chain partners, typically your distribution channel management partners, as well as your supplier who are supplying to you. So tier N supplier to tier 1 supplier, all of them will be helping you to forecast. Then trade industry association or journals. Classical way of looking at this is this vehicle scrappage policy, which was launched way back, but which was come into force a few days back. Then trade industry journals is MCCI is publishing that what is the electric vehicle, the future of electric vehicle. Then there is something called as ACMA, Auto Component Manufacturing Association, which is saying that electric is the future. There are some reports published by McKinsey. There are some portals, web portals. There is some database, ProQuest, ProVest. Then there are some database, Bloomberg, and these are the databases which will help you to predict what will be the data can be used for the forecast. Next slide, please. Now pay attention, because your exams will be in the MCQ mode. So I'll just highlight something vital from your MCQ examination. So they'll be asking you what are the types of forecasting. So there are two basic types. One is a qualitative, another one is quantitative. Qualitative is based on the judgment, is based on the expertise, is based on the experience, is based on understanding of the knowledge, doing the fundamental analysis of the context in which you are doing it. And quantitative is based on the numbers, Now judgmental is opinion survey. So you are asking what is the future of electric vehicle, and whether I shall join some organization which is into electric vehicle, or shall I join some organization which is into typical sales. So you have to take the opinions, and opinions will be based on expertise of the person, based on the knowledge of that person, based on the database in which he is dealing with. You have to take the market trials. So you are taking the market trials, you are just launching some prototypes, you are asking give your feedback. So classical one is you are using smartphones पे चलने वाले कुछ apps, उसमें बीटा टेस्टिंग जो होता है ATL and BTL, classical method of marketing testing. So beta testing, they're using some, they're asking someone to take the trials. The classical method of it could be the trial by the vaccine manufacturer. कुछ वॉलंटियर्स पे ट्रायल किया और उनका क्या उनसे क्या फीडबैक मिला, बेस्ड ऑन दैट दे आर डूइंग इट. Then the market research is the classical old school way of doing the research, understanding what is the requirement of the customers, understanding what customer is exactly want. And then the Delphi technique is expert opinion technique, wherein let's say five owners of automotive suppliers, they are sitting across and they are saying कि क्या फ्यूचर में क्या होने वाला है. डीजल इंजिन्स आप भूल लीजिए, अभी आप यूज ही नहीं करना है. पेट्रोल इंजिन्स हाँ थोड़ा यूज कर सकते हैं. इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स ये चलने वाला है. तो आप यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज नीडेड इन द लॉन्ग टर्म सिनेरियो. सो दीज आर क्वालिटेटिव बेस्ड ऑन सब्जेक्टिव ओपिनियन. मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि आगे जाके ऑपरेशंस एंड सप्लाई चेन ही एक ही डिपार्टमेंट होगा जिसके थ्रू आप वैल्यू ऐड करोगे. नाउ दिस बिकम्स माय सब्जेक्टिव ओपिनियन. नाउ व्हाई एम आई सेइंग दिस? आई कैन प्रूव इट, बट नाउ दिस इज माय सब्जेक्टिव ओपिनियन फॉर द सेम. Then quantitative is time series, and there is something called as econometric or causal methods. So time series is you are getting some data last 10 साल में प्रेडिक्ट करोगे. दैट इज टाइम सीरीज. मूविंग एवरेजेस 10 साल का डेटा है, बट आप बोल रहे हो कि नहीं हम लास्ट 3 साल का ही डेटा लेंगे. यू आर इग्नोरिंग द प्रीवियस ऑब्जर्वेशन. इट्स लाइक ए फर्स्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट, FIFO. Then weighted moving averages. So you are saying that some weightages are given. Let's say जुलाई का डेटा है तो उसको 0.6 से मल्टीप्लाई करो, अगस्त का डेटा है तो 0.3 से मल्टीप्लाई करो, एंड सितंबर का डेटा है तो 0.1 से मल्टीप्लाई करो, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दैट यू आर प्रेडिक्टिंग व्हाट विल बी द फ्यूचर. सो यू आर यूजिंग दैट फोरकास्टिंग. And the last one is exponential smoothing. So you have to come up with the equation which will satisfy all the parameters under consideration. So exponential smoothing. I'll not get into details of this. Is only because of whatever the link which is shared in this PPT itself. यहाँ पे जो लिखा हुआ है अनअकैडमी का ये स्लाइड है, तो वहाँ पे आपको ये डिटेल में एक्सप्लेन किया जाएगा. आई एम जस्ट हियर टू गिव यू द ग्लिम्स. तो नंबर के बेसिस पे है तो वो क्वांटिटेटिव है, और नॉलेज या सब्जेक्टिव नॉलेज के बेसिस पे, एक्सपर्टीज के बेसिस पे है तो क्वालिटेटिव. Then correlation and regression, you must have seen these two terminologies in your BRM books. Correlation is you are trying to correlate if the share market is going up, why gold is going down. Can somebody tell me this question ka answer? Those who are from finance or tracking capital markets. Can you share what is the correlation between gold and equity? Nifty and gold? Can somebody tell me? Hello? Gaurav, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So gold and equity, when the equities or the Nifty is up, gold goes down, the only because of there is something called as hedging that is happening. So you hedge your security against the gold. So Nifty जब ऊपर जाता है तो gold comparatively नीचे आता है. That is what the correlation is. And the regression is when you are trying to fit the equation between 2 points. So X point is there and Y point is there, and you are trying to pass on the line passing through that 2 points. So it becomes a regression analysis. I'll not spend more time on this. These are the types of forecasting. So you might expect market research is what type of forecasting? Is it a qualitative or a quantitative? So like these kind of questions can be there in your final MCQ examination. Just go to the next slide. Now this is vital when it comes to demand forecasting. So in the first column, you can see period is given. It could be 1 year, 1 week, or 1 day, or 1 shift, or 1 hour. You cannot really say anything. So if it is a let's say fast food chain, it will be 1 hour. एक घंटे में कितने मसाला डोसा ऑर्डर किए. So that could be the period, demand period. So let us again then imagine Ola Electric only. So on day 1, 120 is what the demand is. But हमने forecast किया था, हमने पूरा अपना जोर लगाया, qualitative and quantitative analysis किया. Demand actual में आ गया 120 का, but हमने forecast किया था 109 का. So demand was 120 actual, and based on our understanding, based on qualitative and quantitative analysis, we said it is 109. So what is the forecast error? दोनों का difference. 120 में से 109 गया, बाकी बचा 11. And then based on that, what is this SFE is you are actually doing the sum of forecast errors. So that becomes 11 for the first period, time period, first day. ओला इलेक्ट्रिक पहले दिन 120 का डिमांड था, एक्चुअल 120 लोगों ने गाड़ी बुक किया और हमने फोरकास्ट किया था 109 का, डिफरेंस हो गया 11 का. तो डेविएशन कैसे निकालते हैं? वो माइनस या प्लस हो तो हम उसमें से डेविएशन निकालते हैं कि कितने का डेविएशन हुआ, 11 का डेविएशन हुआ.
Sir, your audio is not audible.
Yeah, so sorry, there was some network issue. Am I audible, Gaurav?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Great, thank you. So if you look at this particular example, then what happens is first time period was 120 is demanded,
वही
and the
तो
forecast. Yes. Hello. Hello. Shall I go ahead?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for time period 1, the demand was 120 actual demand, wherein the forecast was 109. So the difference was 11, and sum of forecast error is SFE 11. Absolute deviation is you have to remove the sign. So you can see for time period 2 -4 का हमने 4 ही लिया था. So it is the absolute deviation that we are calculating. Then cumulative deviation is because this is for the first period, so it is 11. You can see for time period 2 is 15. Now MAD is nothing but mean average absolute deviation is 11, because you'll be dividing 11 divided by 1, so it is 1. Then forecast error is nothing but you'll be calculating what is your forecast error. Here it is 9 and 9.17 is what the forecast error is, and absolute error in percentages you have to add up based on the number of time periods that you are considering. Now it is 9.17 in first case, and square error is based on 11 जो deviation था उसका square किया, so that becomes 121, and based on that mean square error is 121 only, and tracking signal becomes 1. Now, having said that, look at the formulas, how to use this forecast. Now, no numerical is expected, but then you might get some example like what is the formula for tracking signal. So tracking signal is SFE squared forecast errors divided by mean absolute deviation, MAD. So now if you really look at the calculations, I have shared the PPT, so you can just go through it. So forecast error is first आपने predict किया और actual में जो आया उसमें का difference आपने निकाला, so that becomes your forecast error. Absolute deviation is nothing but you have to take the mod of that number. So mod का मतलब होता है कि कोई भी आप negative में demand नहीं दे सकते, तो negative का demand हो गया तो वो बनेगा actually में supply. And then cumulative absolute deviation is you have to add up as per based on the number of time periods, you have to add up the things, and based on that you'll be calculating rest of the things. So these are the basic calculations done to calculate the forecast error. I'll share Excel file as well, so that you can actually do you can actually predict what is the forecast error in your class. So what typically happens is we are expecting let's say 100 students will join this class. This is what the forecast is, and let us say actual demand is, I mean actual number of students those who have joined is, let's say 80. So then you can do the calculation for day 1, day 2, day 3 likewise. So go to the next slide. Now, having said that, forecasting is time horizon for the forecasting is long term, short term, and medium term. Now, for manufacturing companies like Ola Electric, long term could be 5 to 10 years, or medium term could be 1 to 5 years, or 1 to 3 years, or something like that. But when it comes to FMCG, it could be day wise or month wise, or when it comes to e-commerce, it could be hourly demand that can be predicted. I'll give you the simple example. So if there is an Amazon sale, let's say this Amazon Freedom Sale is going on, let's say. So within 1 hour, you'll find that all the items are booked already. So that might be possible in case of a e-commerce. The time horizon could be 1 hour, 15 minutes. In case of a equity, the time horizon could be a single minute. 1 minute में पूरा गड़बड़ हो सकता है. So the hierarchy in operations is first you have to take the strategic decision. So in case of a Ola Electric, where to set up the factory. So if factory establish करना is very long term decision. You cannot really take the decision based on ऐसा नहीं है कि आज हमने सोचा कि आज आंध्रा छोड़ेंगे, तमिलनाडु छोड़ेंगे और आंध्रा में जाएंगे या महाराष्ट्र में शिफ्ट करेंगे, नहीं होता है ऐसा. So that's the first thing. Second thing is based on your planning, it will be a business plan. Business plan is what? Next 10 years will be the electric boom, and by 2030, most of the vehicles will be electric in nature. So that becomes their business plan. So business plan is to be jot down to a financial plan and marketing plan. So marketing plan is how many vehicles can we produce. So पहले उन्होंने क्या बोला है कि 1 साल में 1 करोड़ गाड़ियां बेचेंगे. And based on that, you have to have the financial plan. So all these components are there in your startup and new venture management. So what is marketing plan? What is finance plan? What is operational plan? So everything is covered there. Then the next thing is level 2 is you have to come up with master production schedule. Master production schedule is really been derived based on 2 things. It's a material requirement plan and capacity requirement plan. Now capacity is how many machines do we have, how many assembly lines do we have. So based on that, we have to come up with capacity plan. We'll see one example of this because material is not really under our control, and material is supplied by the suppliers. So that becomes your level 2 of planning in operations. And the third one is you have to have a detailed scheduling, day by day, hour by hour plan, and probably a shop floor control. जो ओला इलेक्ट्रिक के केस में जो एक्चुअल असेंबली करने वाले ऑपरेटर्स होंगे, जो रोबोट्स के साथ काम करेंगे, so उनका जो प्लानिंग आपको बनाना है, so that becomes a minute level planning. So the typical approach is called as bottoms up approach and top down approach. Bottoms up is ground level employee giving inputs to the top management, and top down is top management is addressing the needs of ground level employees and giving advices to them. So that becomes the first thing, and then parallelly, strategic plan is where to set up the plan, what should be the variants, what should be the capacity of all the machines. एक साल में 1 करोड़ करना ये कैपेसिटी है, अभी उतना बेचा जाएगा या नहीं ये अलग अलग बात है, या हमें 1 साल के बाद पता चलेगा कि 1 करोड़ गाड़ियां बनाई है, बेची या नहीं है, अलग बात है. Then the tactical plan could be tactical is when it is not really a strategic in nature or not operational in nature. It is in between both of them. So tactical could be, who will be the supplier for electric battery, how many suppliers should be there for the electric battery. So in the manufacturing context, what happens is they typically will have 3 supplier policy. So first supplier will produce or will supply 70% of the batteries. The second one will produce produce and supply 20% of the batteries, and third one will produce and supply 10% of the batteries. So tactical is probably a month or a week or probably 1 to 3 years. And the operational planning is day-to-day planning. Now we have seen in the earlier slide, there is a physical flow of the product and there is a digital flow of the product that is happening. Now digital flow of the product when happens, you have to jot down when it comes to operational operational movement of the material. So let's say machine A से machine B को गया, plant A से plant B को गया, press shop से paint shop को गया. So you have to record all these details in your software, and that is typically done with the help of all these new age softwares called as ERP. You must have heard about this SAP. You must have heard about Oracle, BAN. All these are nothing but the software companies who will be tracking your data in a ERP. Now, ERP can be used in non-manufacturing context as well. So for, let's say, for institutes, there could be ERP for attendance, ERP for managing all the records in the sophisticated software. Now, similar terminology is to be used. When student is absent, physically he is absent, but you have to mark the same entry in the digital context. So ERP पे student absent है या present है, P और A mark करना पड़ता है. And Indian context, that marking in the real time does not happens. इसीलिए अभी हम 3 नंबर पे when it comes to manufacturing and specifically manufacturing of automotives. But eventually now we are technology, we are using these technologies, higher end technologies, wherein this manual mundane tasks are to be replaced with your QR codes, barcodes and scanners. So that is happening. Now when it comes to DRP and MPS, it is a master production schedule. MPS is master production schedule and DRP is related to your demand. So demand requirement plannings, and you have to give your plans about the capacity. So as we have seen, level 2 decisions are material requirement, कौन सा material होगा, सो सप्लायर से कौन सा सप्लायर देने वाला है, कौन से टाइम में देने वाला है, कितना सब प्रोडक्ट देने वाला है. All these decisions are to be tracked physically as well as digitally. So the order is booked, order is processed, everything is updated through that digital platforms, and then the digital platforms are divided into some of these softwares like DRP, CRP, MRP, ERP, uh, which captures this data in the digital format. Now, having said that, let's go to the next slide. Okay, just to your knowledge, most of these most of the slides uh, are taken from B. Mahadevan's book, uh, Planning and Control of Operations. Now we have seen sorry, yeah. So we have seen capacity planning. Let us say there is demand of 250, and number of hours per unit production is 100. So 250 multiplied by 100 is 25,000 is what your annual monthly demand is. Now working days, let us say there are 7 leaves considering Saturday and Sunday. So number of active days is 23. Number of operators or number of machines can be 125. So based on that, what is your capacity? Capacity is 23,000. Now what is the difference? What is the difference is you are really supplying 2,000 less components, less quantity. Now how to come up with that? Let us say number of operators is 125. So can you increase the, if it is a labor intensive work, can you increase number of labors? If it is a machine incentive work, can you have some overtime of the operators so that the 2,000 which is negative in nature can be matched? Now, can you calculate the same for quantity as 350? Can you do it now? Can somebody do it now?
Yes, sir.
So put demand as Q as 100. So demand is 100, hours per unit of production is 100. So total demand becomes 10,000 divided by number of working days 23, and number of operators are same. So requirement is 10,000 and supply is 23,000. So you are producing excess. Requirement is 10,000, but you are producing 23,000 with the same thing. Are you getting this? Because capacity of your machine will be in your hand. When you are setting up your plant, at that time itself, your capacity is defined. Now, suppliers will supply their products. That was discussed in level 2 in the earlier slide. Can you just go to the earlier slide? Yeah, here level 2 will have 2 components. The first component is capacity planning, and the second one is material planning. So material can be supplied by your suppliers, but your capacity will be in your hand. And hence, when they are saying कि 1 साल का हम 1 करोड़ गाड़ियां बनाएंगे, so capacity highest होनी चाहिए, but काम हमें उतना नहीं मिलेगा तो भी चलेगा. बट रिक्वायरमेंट ज्यादा है और आपका कैपेसिटी नहीं है तो क्या होगा? बैक ऑर्डर हो जाएगा. लोग आपसे नाराज हो जाएंगे और वो आपके कॉम्पिटिटर्स के पास जाएंगे और उनसे आपका मटेरियल लेंगे, उनसे अलग मटेरियल लेंगे. सो गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. So this is the formula. Again, the numericals is not really expected, but capacity highest हो और उतना आपका डिमांड नहीं हो तो भी चलेगा. बट डिमांड ज्यादा है और आपका कैपेसिटी कम है तो आपको एक्सपेंशन करना पड़ता है. Simple example is Tata Motors. They have to expand their business. They have to set up the additional plant in Gujarat because there was some constraint with the Pimpri plant. Go to the next slide. Now, having said that, there is something called as aggregate production planning. We have seen the earlier levels of or planning hierarchies in operations. So aggregate production planning is nothing but you have to take your decisions based on what are the resources that you have. So you'll aggregate all of them and you'll come up with the single single number which can be passed on to your suppliers. So let us say aggregation of the demand is, let us say for Ola Electric, there are 10 assembly lines or then 10 platforms जहाँ पे वो गाड़ियाँ बनाएंगे. तो एक प्लेटफॉर्म की रिक्वायरमेंट है, लेट अस से एक प्लेटफॉर्म की रिक्वायरमेंट है उनको 40 बैटरियां चाहिए कल के लिए. दूसरे प्लेटफॉर्म की रिक्वायरमेंट है उनको 30 बैटरियां चाहिए. तीसरे की रिक्वायरमेंट है 100 बैटरियां चाहिए. चौथे की रिक्वायरमेंट है 20 बैटरियां चाहिए. So likewise, you will add up all these required demand, and it is nothing but a matching of the demand with the supply. तो ये अगर अपने स्टोर्स में होगा तो क्या करेंगे, हम स्टोर से ही उनको बैटरियां दे देंगे. बट नहीं है तो क्या करेंगे, वो हम सप्लायर को बोलेंगे कि हमें टोटली, अब हम ऐसा नहीं बोलेंगे कि प्लांट 1 की रिक्वायरमेंट 30 बैटरी है, प्लांट 2 की रिक्वायरमेंट 20 बैटरी, नहीं बोलेंगे. हम बोलेंगे कि टोटल रिक्वायरमेंट जो है हमारी, वो हमारी टोटल रिक्वायरमेंट है 500 बैटरीज. तो बेस्ड ऑन दैट 500 बैटरीज एग्रीगेशन कर लिया आपने सब प्रोडक्शन लाइंस का, and based on that you come up with the single number. So it is typically the exercise of meeting the organizational needs and not the individual needs. So जैसे अगर बोला कि आपको 10 प्लांट्स है तो टोटल डिमांड निकालनी है और वो आप आपके सप्लायर्स को देने वाले हो. That's what is aggregate production plan. And now aggregation is a plant-wide activity, and it's typically done in one period to another period. Now, if it is an operational decision, it will be 1 day, 1 week as a planning timing or planning horizon. And if it is tactical in nature, it will be a month or a year based on the what context you are talking about. So that becomes aggregate production planning. So the next is, just go to the next slide. Now, why do you need aggregate production planning? Let us take the simple example that, let's say this is the example of one of the automotive, let's say Tata Motors. Now, because in June to September period, they will be requiring some resources, some production planning is to be done, some inventory needs to be carried out, and what is to be aggregated is the decision that you needs to be taken. Now here there will be demand fluctuation, there will be capacity fluctuation, there will be production rate which are changing or which are not really constant, and there is a benefits which are derived from multi-period planning. Now this is the 1 year plan, aggregate production plan for 1 year for this one organization. Now what they are saying is 100 operators are needed, and what is the production that is to be done? 100 engines per day. 100 operators होंगे और एक शिफ्ट में काम चलेगा. So then you can produce 100 engines per day. And what should be the decision based on that can be taken is whether to carry the inventory of 5% to 10%. Now here, pay attention to this. 100 है तो 5% inventory can be manageable. Total production देखना, production में जो दिया है ना 100 engines per day. अब जब अक्टूबर टू जनवरी होगा, फेस्टिव सीजन है, तो 115 इंजिन्स पर डे आपको निकालना है, तो यू शुड हैव इन्वेंटरी पॉलिसी एज 10%. नाउ दिस इज नॉट द स्टैंडर्ड वन, इट कैन बी कीप ऑन चेंजिंग, बट बिकॉज योर प्रोडक्शन का ज्यादा लोड है, 100 इंजन निकालना है तो 5% बफर रख सकते हो आप. मतलब 105 इंजन बनाने का आपका कैपेसिटी रखो, बट अगर आपका इंजन का पर डे का कैपेसिटी ज्यादा है, 240 है, तो यू हैव टू कैरी 20% इन्वेंटरी. So these are the decisions which can be done while doing this aggregate production planning exercises. It will be industry-wide or the organization-wide practice which is to be done. And here what can be aggregated? Is it the manpower or the inventory or the production is to be decided. Now this is nothing but a aggregate production plan for 3 quarters, rather for 1 year rather, which is divided into 3 different sectors based on the actual condition. जैसे कि जून टू सितंबर है तो लोग कम बुकिंग करते हैं. सितंबर के बाद ओला इलेक्ट्रिक का ज्यादा से ज्यादा डिलीवरी होगा, इसीलिए उन्होंने दे आर स्टार्टिंग द डिलीवरी इन द सितंबर ओनली, क्योंकि बारिश के सीजन में लोग ऑलरेडी डिमांड कम हो जाता है एंड वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन डिमांड का कोई प्रेडिक्शन नहीं कर सकता है. हम अप्रोक्सीमेट कर सकते हैं डिमांड, बट एग्जैक्ट डिमांड देना डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है. Now this is nothing but the what is the need of aggregate production planning. So if you do that aggregate production planning, you'll be in position to take the decisions related to resources, production, inventory, and aggregation. Yes, go to the next slide. Now let me say something about managing supply and managing demand. Now अभी डिमांड और सप्लाई अपने हाथ में नहीं है. डिमांड तो अपने हाथ में है नहीं, सप्लाई का हम कैपेसिटी अपने हाथ में है, बट आपके मटेरियल प्रोवाइडर जो है या आपके सप्लायर्स है, उनका कंट्रोल आपके हाथ में एक्चुअली 100% नहीं होता है. होता है बट 100% नहीं होता है. सो अल्टरनेटिव्स टू मैनेज द सप्लाई विल लुक एट इट, बट पहले तो डिमांड के केस में देखते हैं. तो डिमांड अगर उनको मैनेज करना है तो डिमांड कैसे मैनेज करेंगे? यू हैव टू टेक द रिजर्वेशंस ऑफ द कैपेसिटी. So you have to take the reservations of the capacity so that you can use some influencing the demand. जैसे कि आपने Ola, they come up with this methodology, influence the demand. पहले जो कस्टमर्स होंगे वो 499 में बुकिंग करेंगे, उनको सब्सिडी मिलेगा वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. So this is how they actually created the demand. उन्होंने डिसाइड किया कि 1 लाख कस्टमर को ही बुकिंग हम अलो करेंगे. अब ऐसा नहीं है क्या कि वो 1 लाख के ऊपर भी जा सकता है, बट वो जब 1 लाख के ऊपर जाएगा, मंथली हमारा प्लान जो है वो 96-97,000 ही है, तो उसके ऊपर उनको वेटिंग करना पड़ेगा. इसलिए और कस्टमर को वेटिंग करवाना है तो कस्टमर माइट नॉट स्टे इन द लाइन. वो अपने यूनिट 2 में देखा होगा, देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज क्यूइंग थ्योरी और वेटिंग लाइन एनालिसिस. So customer might not be interested to wait till you get that product. Now these are the 2 alternatives to manage the demand. And now for managing the supply, there are 3 basic methodology. First is inventory based alternatives. Now inventory based alternatives is either you can build the inventory, bana ke rakh do. So there is something called as engineer to order and make to order. We'll look at it, but ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जाएंगे क्योंकि वो confusion बढ़ेगा आपका. Then you have to do the capacity adjustments as well. In that case, you can hiring or layoff of the workers. Temporary workers को आप काम पे रखो. Then varying the shifts. हमने पहले एग्जांपल में देखा कि 1 शिफ्ट में काम चलाएंगे, 2 शिफ्ट में काम चलाएंगे, या ओवर टाइम देंगे. So varying the working hours. So that is the second alternative. And the third alternative is subcontracting or outsource, the classical method of doing it. So आपका कैपेसिटी नहीं है ना, तो आप क्या करो कि आप आपके सप्लायर को आउटसोर्स कर दो, सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टिंग करवा दो. आपका पेंटिंग शॉप का कैपेसिटी कम है, बिल्ड सम सप्लायर पार्क जहाँ पे आपके सप्लायर आपके पेंटिंग में हेल्प करेंगे. And addition of new capacity, again this becomes a capex oriented decision कि एक नया ही प्लांट सेटअप करो क्योंकि अपना सप्लाई अभी मैनेज नहीं हो रहा है. So that might become the alternatives to manage the supply. So there are 2 methodologies in managing the demand and for 3 methodologies in managing the supply. And hence we cannot really predict the future. So we'll try to manage or match what is demanded and what can be supplied. So demand supply match gap always होता है, इसलिए हमें ये alternatives use करने पड़ते हैं.
Go to the next slide. Now, there are two strategies which is typically been used in the context of aggregate production planning. First is level strategy and second one is a chase strategy. Now pay attention, very simple. Level strategy, हमारा इन्वेंट्री लेवल 100 पे ही मेंटेन करना है. जैसे हमने 5 यूज कर लिया, फिर से हमने इन्वेंट्री मेंटेन कर लिया. सो लेवल 100 का ही लेवल मेंटेन करना है. So that becomes a level strategy. And chase strategies, you are actually doing some adjustment with the capacity alternatives. So either it could be overtime, either it could be debottlenecking, either it could be subcontracting. So just go to the previous slide. Just go to the previous slide. So whatever is been highlighted over here are the inputs while considering your level strategy or a chase strategy. Level strategy क्या है कि 100 का लेवल मेंटेन करना है. कोई भी पॉइंट पे अपना जो डिमांड होगा वो 100 ही होना चाहिए. सो लेवल इट. एंड चेस स्ट्रेटजीज, आज 100 है, कल 120 है. 100 बनाने हैं तो 10 ऑपरेटर चाहिए, 120 बनाने हैं तो 12 ऑपरेटर चाहिए. तो चेस कर लो उन लोग को, बट आप यू डोंट मेंटेन इट. So when there is a fluctuation in demand, you are actually maintaining some level which is called as level, which is under the context of level strategy. And whenever there is a fluctuation, you try to chase that fluctuation, that is under the chase strategy. Go to the next slide. Now you have to read these key features. Inventory is a critical link in between the periods and mid to stock kind of an environment. So product with low risk of obsolescence can have a level strategy. मतलब क्या है, मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि लेवल रखना है. कभी भी हमारे शोरूम में 100 गाड़ियां होनी चाहिए. एक भी गाड़ी बेची जाती है तो फिर से एक गाड़ी मंगाओ. वो तो उसमें क्या हो जाता है, उसमें पैसा ज्यादा जाता है. और चेस स्ट्रेटजी कम ज्यादा होता है तो आप इन्वेंट्री आप नहीं पीरियड टू पीरियड नहीं देख सकते. आप बोलते हो कि जो भी फ्लक्चुएशन आएगा आई विल चेस इट. सो चेस इज अपने क्रिकेट में जैसे होता है ना, चेसिंग द टारगेट एंड उसमें मेंटेनिंग द टारगेट. So that is what level strategy and chase strategy is all about. Now go to the next slide. Now when it comes to planning hierarchies in operation, we must have seen that there was some pyramid of hierarchy decisions that needs to be taken. Now master production schedule is the next level in aggregate production planning, or aggregate production planning comes first and then the master production schedule. Now master production schedule is nothing but what is exactly disintegration or disaggregation of varieties in done. So let us say there are 10 lines which are manufacturing or which are assembling the scooters. So master production schedule will come up with प्लांट ए है, सपोज लाइन असेंबली लाइन ए है. ए पे 10:12 पे कौन सी गाड़ी बनेगी, व्हाइट, रेड, S1, S Pro. 10:14 पे कौन सी गाड़ी बनेगी, इज इट द S1, S Pro. उसमें फिर कलर आएगा, कलर कॉम्बिनेशन, वेदर इट इज अ ब्लैक और अ रेड और अ व्हाइट. So this is what the master production schedule is, and then based on the master production schedule, we are actually firing the requirements under this MRP, that's called as MRP run. So go to the next slide. Yeah. So as we have discussed, so product 0, level 0 product is one scooter. Level 1 product could be one scooter might need one electric battery or 3 electric batteries and 2 wheels. So that becomes a level 1 product. Level 2 product will be to assemble a one wheel, you might need one tire and one inner wheel. So something like that. So it is basically प्रोडक्ट स्ट्रक्चर में लेवल 0 प्रोडक्ट इज योर अल्टीमेट प्रोडक्ट विच इज डिमांडेड बाय द कस्टमर. अब ओला इलेक्ट्रिक का एक स्कूटर बिकम्स योर लेवल 0 प्रोडक्ट. लेवल 1 प्रोडक्ट में एक गाड़ी बनाने के लिए आपको 2 बैटरी चाहिए, 3 बैटरी चाहिए, 1 बैटरी चाहिए, 2 व्हील्स चाहिए, तो दैट बिकम्स अ लेवल 1 प्रोडक्ट. अब ये लेवल 1 में अगर एक हमने बोला कि व्हील चाहिए, हमें 2 टायर्स चाहिए, 2 व्हील्स चाहिए, तो 2 व्हील्स बनाने के लिए आपको चाहिए 2 टायर्स और 2 इनर व्हील्स जो मेटल का होता है वो. So that becomes level 2 product, and level 3 will be level n will be always a nature. Either it will be a sand, either it will be a steel, either it will be a rubber, either it will be a plastic components, but it is always a natural products. So level n product is a natural products, and based on that there is something called as bill of materials. The bill of material is actually converted into these levels of productions, and based on that, the aggregation will happen in master production schedule. Master production schedule. तो वो बोलेंगे कि level 0 में हमें 50 गाड़ियां बनानी है across the plant. तो across the plant जो भी requirement होगा वो आपको divide करके bill of materials में देना है, तब जाके आपके suppliers वो supply करेंगे. Go to the next slide, please. Now, this is the crux of the discussion. Digital flow, physical flow will happen like MRF का टायर निकला है केरला से, वो तमिलनाडु पहुंच जाएगा 15 घंटों बाद, या बैटरी निकली है लेट्स से उत्तराखंड से और वो पहुंचेगी तमिलनाडु 2 दिन बाद, जो भी होगा. But whatever happens, you need to track it in the digital context as well. So if you really look at this particular diagram, there is input of MRP, master production schedule, MPS, bill of materials जो हमने अभी देखा, bill of materials based on the products of levels of products, and inventory records. So which is processed, and then based on that, it will create the output. Now MRP will give us the output in 2 format. One is a primary report and one is a secondary report. Primary report is कौन सा कंपोनेंट देना है, कब देना है, कौन से लाइन पे देना है, कितने क्वांटिटी में देना है. And the exception reports is secondary reports are nothing but the exception reports, wherein it will talk about how to have some deviation from the whatever is been planned. So वो control में आ जाता है. So go to the next slide. Now I was talking about there will be 3 different terminologies that we will be putting at the end, and that is nothing but a takt time. Now takt time is what आपके पास let's say 480 hours का एक shift है, 480 minutes का. We are reducing let's say 25 minutes of time, so the time remaining is 455 minutes multiplied by 60 per seconds. And एक गाड़ी बनाने के लिए यहाँ पे जो कैलकुलेशन किया है वो बोलता है कि 45.5 seconds लगेंगे, wherein the cycle time is nothing but the ratio of total production upon available time. Now it is exactly the opposite of the earlier one. Cycle time is the input is getting converted into output, that is a cycle time. And takt time is nothing but the what is the available time and how much customer is demanding during that time. So you can see that the cycle time and takt time, there is a relation between them. So when the cycle time is matched with the lead time, it is the ideal scenario, ideal situation. But that doesn't happen, and here also there is a takt time which is higher than the cycle time. Now, what happens in that case? You have to have the underproduction. So when the takt time is more than, there's a relation between this lead time and the cycle time. Now, what is the throughput time? Is the time required to complete the product from input to output. So that becomes a throughput time. This includes all these times of quality time, inspection time, and processing time as well. Go to the next slide, please. So based on that, there's this Little's law, and Little's law talks about L is nothing but the ratio of, or there's a significance between WIP and lead time. So WIP should be 0 in ideal case scenario. Now go to the next slide. Now again, this is just to give you the context. When it comes to assembly line, हमने अभी तक ओला की बात की, तो assembly line is what customers are really expecting. Assembly line is you are assembling to order. When the customer is booking, then only you are assembling the car or scooter in this case. But the customer is not ordering, then probably you are not making it. So there will be another context wherein in case of a project, it will be engineer to order. जो इंजीनियरिंग स्पेसिफिकेशन आएंगे उस तरीके से आप ऑर्डर बनाएंगे. Make to order is, it is a standardized product. So make to order is when there is an order, then only you'll make it. And there's something called as assemble to order. When order is there, then you are assembling the order. You are keeping your suppliers aware about all these requirements of the raw material, components needed, and semi-finished and finished products. So these are nothing but the types of production firms, and based on that, this ATO, MTS, MTO, and ETO are used. But we are looking everything from the context of general manufacturing, and wherein the time is the constant, and hence I thought of let's discuss this Ola Electric case study. Now I think the 2-3 slides remaining. Just go to the next slide, please. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So Johnson's rule, this is nothing but a part of production control. Whenever your planning is failed, आपका plan खराब हो गया, तो आप उसको खराब हुए प्लान को कैसे कंट्रोल करोगे, या कैसे आपको उसको एक लेवल पे लेके आओगे. So that becomes a production control. Anyways, I mean, it's not always a preventive control. It could be a planning control as well. So you are actually saying that you are using the control before anything goes wrong. So here Johnson's rule is nothing but let us say there are two processes that are going on, and jobs A, B, C, D are to be assembled. Now Johnson rule says the quickest one are to be kept at last. अब ये पहले जॉब प्रोसेस 1 में अगर आप देखोगे तो सबसे क्विकेस्ट कौन था, 5 है. बट ये उसके पहले क्या देखना है, प्रोसेस 1 और प्रोसेस 2 में सबसे क्विकेस्ट कौन है, 3 है. तो 3 आपको लास्ट में असाइन करना है. सो यू विल गेट एवरीथिंग रिलेटेड टू दिस इन योर decision science course. But for the understanding, for the sake of understanding, slowest of all is to be given at the last, and quickest of all is to be given at the first. मतलब 3 यहाँ पे आएगा C, तो C का असाइनमेंट हमने कर लिया. देन 3 के बाद 5 है, तो 5 हमने यहाँ पे दे दिया. उसके बाद वाला 6 है, तो हमने B को यहाँ पे रख दिया. उसके बाद फिर से 6 है, तो A को हमने यहाँ पे रख दिया, और C बचा है तो वो बीच में आ गया. And the output is, let us say there are this process 1 and process 2 happening at a time. So here you'll have 2 different parallel process, but outcome will be the best possible outcome, because slowest processing will take time, while highest processing will be done in the best possible way, or in the quickest possible time. So you are matching basically slowest and hardest, slowest and fastest, and that is how you manage the bottleneck. Go to the next slide, please. Now this is nothing but a Gantt chart. Gantt chart talks about how are you planning your production. So let us say first task is analysis. Analysis is divided into 5 different or 4 different factors. So you are assigning some time. So basically, let us say it is the month of January. You are planning to have a visit, on-site visit. So you'll be assigning the time. Let's say 1st January you are meeting, going on site. On 2nd January you are going for the discussion with the stakeholders. For the third, on the 1st January in the second half, you can go to the document current system, kind of a process. So everything is mapped on this Gantt chart, and this is the classical tool given by this great scientist, Gantt, and classical tool used in the project management context, but it is used for the production control as well. So everything is visible, so you can see at what time this green process is started and yellow process is started, and you can see that green color is assigned for the design phase, the blue for testing phase, and something like that. Now go to the next slide. Now, having said that, what I was trying to do was making you aware about production planning and production control. Production planning is how are you planning in the context of a time phase wherein 2 seconds are needed to make a car. अगर 2 सेकंड में आपका कार नहीं बनता है, then whatever the time you have lost, 1 मिनट लॉस किया तो आपके 30 कार्स खराब हो गए, 30 स्कूटर्स खराब हो गए. और in the context of automobile, let's say 4-wheeler, टाटा मोटर्स 70 सेकंड में एक कार बनाता है. तो 1 मिनट आपका लेट हो गया. क्यों लेट होगा? क्योंकि एक तो आपका सप्लायर, somebody is located in China, somebody is in Singapore, somebody is in Pune but at a remote location, somebody is in the Bangalore and Kerala. First. Second thing is you are mapping your digital flow and you are mapping your physical flow. And the third one is the context of this Ola Electric. It's the Industry 4 compliant factory. And the last one is you can actually see that General Electric is coming up with their predicts platform wherein mass personalization can be possible. Mass personalization is you are saying I want an electric vehicle wherein I don't want 3 batteries, I want 5 batteries, I don't want boot space or something like that, and then everything can be mapped. Having said that, let's go to the next and probably a last slide. What are the careers in supply chain? So if you are inclined towards doing on field, import export, supply chain management, supply chain operations, logistics planning, these are some of the hot careers in supply chain. If you're looking for e-commerce or digital supply chain, you can be a e-commerce specialist, you can be supply chain analyst, supply chain analytics can be used. You can be get into purchase, you can get into sourcing, you can go get into quality management, something like that. And what are the skill set needed? You need a domain knowledge, you need a command over language. And when I say command over language, not only English but whatever the language which is typically been used by your manufacturer or your company. And some soft skills you will be needing. You need team management, you need a coordination with all the team members. You have to take that quick decision making because 2 सेकंड में आपकी एक गाड़ी बन रही है, तो 2 सेकंड का डिले आपने डिसीजन किया तो 1 लाख का नुकसान हो गया आपका. And you need to have analytical abilities because it will be a central function. And the last thing is a common sense, a good level of common sense is needed. In the typical class, I discuss mother-like nature of this particular stream. So you are saving money by not making a waste. You're not really bringing orders like what marketing guys are doing, but you're saving the money, which is actually vested. So mother-like nature of this particular specialization makes you more efficient when you have a good level of common sense. And with this, I'll stop here, go to the last slide, wherein I firmly believe that click, you have to click 4 or 5 times. So these are my coordinates. I'm on LinkedIn. And as I have mentioned, the soft skill needed could be a networking skill. So if you're on LinkedIn, please join me. And you can see almost 5,000 odd connections are there on my LinkedIn. I'm not really active on Facebook. I'm kind of active on Twitter. So my digital twin is Sarang Dani. So with this, I thank thank you for your patience listening and keeping your eyes and ears open while listening to this talk. Thank you very much. Yes, coordinator.
Thank you, sir. It was a great pleasure for all of us to gain knowledge about production planning and control. Now, if anybody wants to ask any question, please feel free to ask, guys.
Sarang sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I have one question. Usually students do have. So it was a belief that only engineering students should opt for operations and supply chain management. So what's your
Okay.
view on it?
Yeah. So I have mentioned in my last slide, like if you really look at the syllabus, there are 3 streams that can be seen clearly. First is manufacturing operations. The second one is services operations, and the third one is IT operations. So if you have got engineering background, you should opt for manufacturing operations and look at the choices which are provided in our syllabus. So manufacturing operations, you can learn supply chain and logistics, and you can skip some of the services operations related courses. You can go for a Six Sigma, you can go for lean manufacturing, which is offered as an elective. That's the first thing. Second thing is for the services operations. Now, if you look at the contribution of services industry in our GDP, it is now significant. So number of people working in the service industries are increasing. Now, just to give you some glimpses of how this Ola is coming up with the future factories. So they have employed robots. So they no more requiring the mundane or typical job floor jobs are replaced by robots. So what kind of rules are available for we guys as operations or supply chain manager? So yeah, we should be good at giving some coding in robots, facts finding about the robots. So these are manufacturing jobs related to services. This could be very early to talk about their delivery system, but then they are saying that we should not have any showrooms until and unless we have a demand for the products. So you don't have showrooms of Ola. It might happen that there are no showrooms of demand. The Ola. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Audible.
Yeah. So in that context, then the digital marketing team might not be needed for them. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. So having said that, production engineering background है तो production operation definitely get into that and go into OEMs, because OEMs are making the highest possible value to the product by their core competencies, whatever they are offering. Now, Ola Electric will be assembling, or suppliers, let us assume 100 odd suppliers are there. So it's better to work in OEMs so that you'll have a good recognition and good pay packages as well. Services industry, Amazon and Flipkart, or in our case now Walmart, are the top two companies who are representing the richest persons of the world. So they are capturing everything, and then there are some government regulations happening on it, like competition control of India, CCI, and all. But then online is the future. Look at the method that is used by Zomato. So they are not making any food, but they are delivering it. So services are there, and when it comes to time management, so consider Mumbai's डब्बा वाला 90 seconds में आपको टिफिन्स लेके जाना है. अगर 90 seconds में आपने रेलवे में टिफिन्स नहीं डाले तो आपका उस दिन का 30-35 लोगों का डिलीवरी खराब हो गया. लुक एट द ओला इलेक्ट्रिक 2 सेकंड में कार बना 2 सेकंड में स्कूटर बनाएंगे. टाटा मोटर 70 सेकंड में कार बनाएंगे. सो ये when there is a demand and you don't have a constraint on your capacity, तो वो problem बढ़ने वाला है. So get into services, get into supply chain analytics, supply chain management, which is typically can be taken by non-engineering students as well. This is what my perspective is.
Thank you, sir, because always students, they have a question, madam. We don't have a operation background, so should we go with it? So you have well addressed this question. So other students, any one of you have got question, dear?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Darshan Pardeshi.
Yeah, Darshan.
Sir, I have one question. Like, if someone is already working in PPC department, like I am working in PPC department from 4 years in Bristol tires. If we want to learn something more about it, so which certification courses are will you suggest, and from which website or institutes, which will be helpful in industries when we go for appear for job or interviews?
Okay. So actually, I can share the list with you, ma'am. But to give some answer to him, so Swayam NPTEL courses, our institute is one of the center for it, and I hope your institute is also Swayam Center. So you can take the courses offered by IITs and IIMs. So one of the courses on Industry 4.0, which is given by IIT Roorkee. So it is more of a technical. That could be one thing. The second one is you can go for Six Sigma certification, not for PPC actually, but you can go for this generic certification Six Sigma. You can go for Six Sigma with ASQ. ASQ has got office in Kothurud. So then you can think of getting into Lean Six Sigma, which is again offered by AISQ, which is located at Satara Road. For PPC specifically, you can go for Demand Planning Institute. These are paid courses, Demand Planning Institute. Then you can go for ISCM courses, specifically for manufacturing. Then you can go for some generic courses related to materials management or production planning offered by IIMM, Indian Institute of Materials Management. They have got office at Shivaji Nagar. Then you can think of some certification by EPICS. EPICS is the apex body in operations and supply chain. So they offer the courses specifically for PPC and production planning. And generic courses can be taken from this YM or NPTEL, or you can go for Coursera, edX. They are offering this supply chain analytics or digital manufacturing kind of a course. So even ma'am, I can share some of the links which we are really giving to our students so that your
Sure,
students
sir.
will get a benefit.
It would be definitely a great help.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Darshan.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, Vaishnavi.
So, what will be the demand of operations and supply chain management in future at which field?
Okay. I'll give you the short answer because of the paucity of time. if you ask me, there are only two departments which are at most needed by any organization. First is marketing, and second one is operations. For HR department, again, this will be very bold statement. I'm not saying that HR, IT, and finance is not needed, but you can outsource it. For finance, you can have CA firms. They'll do the entire management of yours. For HR, you can hire HR consultant. Will be doing it on pro bono basis, or there could be a long-term contract. For IT, see, the IT is one of the booming field, and there are these freelancers, or then they call it as techies, geeks. All of them will help us to define our IT. So ERP, if you want to have that ERP, you just give it to somebody else, and then within 3 months time you will get your entire thing ERP uh, converted to ERP basically. So marketing is needed because you need some demand from the customers, and how to supply it is the task which is done by the operations management. And in the context of e-commerce, I believe marketing, the conventional marketing is replaced now by digital marketing. So this will be again bold statement, but then Bhavish Agarwal is saying that we'll not have our showrooms until and unless we deliver, because it becomes a common sense for them कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करना है या शोरूम कहाँ पे डालना है, कितने स्क्वायर फीट का शोरूम होना चाहिए, और उसका मेंटेनेंस हार्डली आपको बैटरी रिप्लेस करनी है. ये आपके मोबाइल की तरह आपके टू व्हीलर्स होने वाले हैं. क्या होगा, बैटरी नहीं चल रही है, कितना 5 साल का गारंटी है, रिप्लेस हो रहा है तो ठीक है ना, तो बदल दो और गो अहेड विद द यूजिंग ऑफ द व्हीकल. और नहीं काम हो रहा है तो it might be a scrap, and then there is a vehicle scrappage policy. So probably 10 साल आप यूज करोगे 1 लाख की गाड़ी, 10,000 रुपए एक महीने, 1 साल का, और that comes out to be around 800 rupees per month is what is needed. So having said that, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में रिक्वायरमेंट हो सकता है, सर्विसेज में और स्पेसिफिकली ई कॉमर्स में रिक्वायरमेंट हो सकता है. गवर्नमेंट जॉब्स और टेंडरिंग एंड ऑल रिक्वायरमेंट कम रहेगा, बट देन इफ यू आर रियली स्किल्ड एंड टैलेंटेड, देयर इज अ fortune that you can make out of it. So this is what my take is. So manufacturing, e-commerce, and probably a support services. ठीक है वैष्णवी? I
Yes,
hope I have given
thank
you, sir.
Anyone wants to ask any question, guys?
So, Sarang sir, I'm so glad that you have accepted our invitation, and just one request, and you could make out that your busy schedule, you could make out a time for our students. I thoroughly enjoyed, to be, I mean, very frank, I thoroughly enjoyed your session, learning a lot of real-time examples, lot of questions, numerical parts that you have taken. So facts and figure that you have exposed in front of the students. So that's really make a sense for the student to relate such a difficult topic. You could make it very, very easy. Live videos you could have shared with the students. So I'm really thankful to Sarang Dani sir for giving such an exhaustive presentation and clearing all the doubts of the production planning and control. Sir, I sir request that in the future, whenever you have a time, so please keep guiding our students, keep just enlightening the students with your thoughts and the knowledge. So thank you to you and the management of your institute for, I mean, allowing you to be a part of SBPIM management.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. I also would like to thank you and Kirti ma'am for giving me this opportunity to share my views. You can share the presentation, ma'am, with the students. I just thought whether if students go through the presentation and if they have got any doubts or query, I am reachable. So you can, I mean, we can coordinate and we'll solve those queries. So production planning and control. So control is needed. I thought of let's have this presentation on tab, but ultimately I'm using my backup plan. So I'm giving it via my mobile phone. So that's what the operations management is. Show must go on. You don't have
Yes.
time to make some changes.
Mhm.
So, but then because of the paucity of time, the interaction was not really been there. To some extent, it was there, but whenever they go through the presentation, if they got any doubts or a query, I'll be more than happy to answer those queries, or probably centrally we can coordinate and then we can have some
Surely, sir. Along with the
follow-up
student,
session.
I am also going to be in touch with you, sir. That's for
Sure.
sure.
And thank you, ma'am, for allowing our students to be the part of this. This is I think, I believe, first kind of a student exchange that is happening. So
Right,
let's
sir.
set the trends and let's make it.
Surely, surely. So all
But
the students who have
thanks, ma'am.
benefited with it. So thank
So
you, sir, for being a
I
kind.
thank. Yeah, I was just saying I am thanking all the students of SBPIMS and NICDR, and I hope that we could take this forward in our next few sessions as well. And for any queries or doubts, we can have some follow-up session, 15-20 minute session at any point in time. By going through the presentation, you'll get more ideas about it. I have kept all the presentation links active so that you can go and just check and you can explore more topics. So I'll be more than happy if we have got some queries. We can take some session, 15-20 minutes by follow-up session for the queries and questions related to pertaining to production planning and control on this Saturday or Sunday based on the requirement. But I'm open for that, so that's totally fine with me. And
Thank you,
I
sir, for
thank.
being so generous. And it's being 2.5 hours. You are continuously speaking. I mean, always we have seen whenever the time limit is there, the speaker is like, it's the time goes over. I mean, you didn't say, you didn't utter a single word that the time is over. We could see the eagerness of yours, like you, how you wanted to ensure the students should get the knowledge. So I'm very happy, sir, the way you have uh, guided our students.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. As a team, we have to collaborate and come up with the co-creation of the sustainable future of India. So that's what the motto was. So thank you so much for considering me for this session. Thank you, madam.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Sarangdani, sir. From our entire SBPM family is overwhelmed by your presence, sir. Your valuable knowledge and sharing your ideas was very important for us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Kirti Dharwarkar, ma'am, for opening such doors for many learning opportunities. Thank you so much, Kajal Maheshwari, ma'am, for being there, such a great support for the event, and to all my SBPIM family for being attentive and interactive members throughout the session. I hereby call off the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Vaishnavi, for such a
Thank you,
being nice.
ma'am.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, all the coordinators, student coordinators. Thank you, all the
Thank you,
students of
ma'am.
Nalek first. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.